You are listening to the EVP Podcast.
Welcome back to a new episode of the EVP Podcast, a special episode because we have a few familiar faces and voices in here that you might have seen in a while. I'm BBO.
And you know me, I'm Ghosty.
I'm Beaker.
I'm
Brownie.
Peaches.
Hello.
Hey.
Well, we have a special guest because this is episode
200.
200.
Woohoo.
200 episodes when we started this, gentlemen.
We've been doing this for a little over
200 years.
5 years. 200 years. We do one episode a year.
So 5 years. Oh, just barely.
We started in 2021, so we're
February.
We just had this will also be like our 5-year anniversary show. So.
Yeah. That's exciting. Well, they told me I need to come back for the 200th episode. I said, you're absolutely right. I do need to come back for the 200th episode. And we've got some other investigations going on too that we'll probably talk about in future episodes. So
We'll have you back in 50 episodes as well.
yes, episode 250.
We'll hit you up every 50 episodes.
But we brought Peaches with us
Hey.
because I wanted to ask some questions as someone who believes in the afterlife, but also from a very skeptical standpoint. Even though I believe, I still have a very skeptical standpoint on things. So thanks for telling me that episode 200 was coming up, gentlemen. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I've been trying to plan something special for the last couple months, and
Been throwing rocks at your house to remind you and at your car, calling you constantly.
I sent him a text once.
And I said, I'm there.
So we can't do 200 without you.
Yes.
And you said we can't do 200 without Peaches. So here we are.
That's right. So we have to have her on. So I was asking some of my friends, I said, hey, if you were going to interview a medium, what type of questions would you want to ask?
Oh, yeah. In case if you haven't listened to the show ever, Peaches is a medium.
Yes.
I think of myself as a sensitive.
She used to be a small.
I'm extra large.
I'm getting larger, but that's the perimenopause.
Still medium.
So you
Yes.
prefer the term sensitive instead of medium?
Yes, because I don't know. I don't like to put labels on things. I guess because a medium, there's so many uses for that word.
Yes.
As far as the paranormal goes, and then for art and for other things. And sometimes not so many people get that. So I just say
That makes
sensitive.
sense.
Because everybody's abilities are different. Everybody.
Yeah.
So
And I know we've had you come on before in the past and kind of share some stories in your history, but we have some new listeners and viewers, so
We do have some.
So maybe we need to get to know you a little bit more and go more in depth. Big, were you going to say something?
For me, like a medium when it comes to the paranormal is like, if you look at it like as scientific or mathematical terms, a medium is just the middle, right?
Yes.
So for me, a medium when it comes to paranormal is someone that's in between the two worlds, the middle.
The two worlds being what?
The spirit world and then our living
Real.
world that we're in, the real world. It's all real.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how I look at it in medium. And I know not everybody's going to look at it the same way. So
Right.
like I totally understand why she wants to go with the term sensitive.
And that makes sense. And we also talked too.
She's sensitive in a completely different way.
Yeah, I cry a lot. No, that's you.
You've seen it.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because when we were at Zach Bagans Haunted Museum, I was bawling. And everyone's like, is he okay? And Ghosty's like, oh, he does this all the time.
He's a big baby.
He gets emotional. And also, as we kind of talked before we got together today, everything that we're going to talk about and ask you and that you tell us, Peach, is all from your perspective. Because you've said everyone who's a medium or a sensitive, they're going to have different interpretations of what they've experienced or heard or have seen. And so this is just kind of your version.
right, because I
think-
can't tell anybody else's story.
Right.
So-
And I like that. And
We
know
sure
we've
can
had-
try.
Yeah.
No, we want to hear your story.
And so let's start. Like, when did you start noticing or realizing things were different, where you could maybe see, hear? Well, you tell me what it was.
So I was about between 5 and 6 years old.
Okay.
My very first, I guess, paranormal experience or seeing a spirit. I was at my father's house, and I was visiting him for the weekend, and he was making dinner. I was outside. I'm an only child, so I was outside by myself, basically. And my dad comes out and says, "Hey, dinner's ready. You need to come inside." And at that moment, I saw an apparition, and it was of a woman. I don't know this woman. And she tells me, "Don't go inside." She says, "There's something bad inside, so don't go inside." So I'm staying outside, and my dad's kind of getting impatient. "Hey, come inside. It's dinner time." And I look at him, and I says, "I was told to wait." And he's like, "Who told you to wait?" Because he's looking out there.
Yeah.
"There's nobody out here but you." And so during that brief moment, this entity went and cleared what was ever in the house out. Turns out that later on, after explaining to my father this entity that I saw, it was my great-great-grandmother. And she was also a sensitive. And so I guess she had been with me this whole time, but at that moment, it was like a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, I was able to see spirits from that point on.
Interesting, because my youngest is 6 years old. So I'm thinking of her. Tell me what you just told me.
Right.
When you see your great-great-grandmother, how does she look to you? Does she look like just like if your dad was standing outside, or she looked a little different?
So like as if I'm sitting here with you guys right now, you know, full scale color, not the black and white that Hollywood likes to portray or whatnot.
Or see-through.
Right. I see people, spirits, like they're people to me because, you know.
Right.
But as they died.
Okay.
So at the moment of their death, what they look like. So she's wearing a burnt, tethered white dress because she died in a fire. Her dress caught fire by putting some coals into a coal-burning stove, and her dress got caught in the door, and she died by fire.
Wow.
So I see her as burnt and scarred, and that's kind of how I see them, as how they died. So if you die naked, I'm going to see you naked.
Okay.
Sweet. So just curious, because you see them how they died, right? So let's say I die of a heart attack, right? I'm not going to have any like physical differences than I do now as a living person. So how do you tell like between an actual person or a spirit that's died in like similar circumstances?
The only difference is that the living have a different energy that we omit versus somebody who's passed because they don't have a physical body. So their energy is much different.
Interesting.
Like not as, you know, vibrant, not as, you know, bright, and not as strong, not as powerful so much.
But you do see some type of energy around you?
Yes.
But just different.
Yeah, it's way toned down, obviously, because they don't have a physical body.
Yeah.
But they do omit some kind of energy, which is how they're able to, you know, play with equipment and, you know, able to say things or touch things and all of that sort of situation.
Okay, so that's how you can kind of tell the difference.
And as far as like he said, like having a heart attack, I would have to ask them how you died, obviously. If there's no physical, you know, so it's different. Most spirits that I see died from, you know, natural causes, and even if like you die from poisoning, if it's depending on how it was ingested or, you know, inhaled or whatever, you may not be able to tell. So it's just me asking them, and I can either physically ask them, like I'm talking to you, or in the spirit world, sometimes it's more of like a telepathy sort of thing.
Okay.
So like they can tell me how they died without me physically having to ask them.
All right. I was going to ask that. Okay, so it's telepathically
Downloads.
And then, of course, in group settings where people are like, how would you die? So in order for it to be, for the people who cannot see them, I will ask out loud, and then I will relay that information.
Let's say which we've done. The four of us go into an investigation, and we are, you know, asking questions. Are they are they looking at us? Are they acknowledging us? Do they not notice us? Or is every spirit different?
Most spirits, in my experience, will notice the living.
Okay.
Now, whether they want to acknowledge you or not, as whether they like your personality, whether they kind of want to be standoffish based on how you look, they're still human. Once you die, you don't change how you were
Yeah.
when you were alive. You're still the same. You just don't have a physical body.
Okay.
So if you were like, shy,
Yeah.
or you're going to probably stay away. If you were a more aggressive or a more talkative person, you're going to probably be that social, hey, how are you doing? Trying to get your attention. So
If you're a trickster in life, you're the one who's going to be moving
Right.
chairs and
right. And if you were some kind of jerk in life, and I'm going to censor myself for the show because normally I don't, but if you are not the nicest person, then yeah, you're still going to be that way. You don't necessarily change personality or type.
If you're not listening to the show, we don't censor.
lay it into us. Okay, all right, interesting. And so, them wanting to talk, if we're at an investigation, we're asking questions, or at investigation, they're acknowledging, but it's up to them whether they want to engage or not. When you hear them, does it sound like us talking now, or does it sound different?
No, it sounds like us talking now.
Okay.
So the only distinguishable difference is I can hear them and you guys may not. So, and that's where the trust factor comes in on whether you believe what I'm telling you.
Sure.
Because you can't hear it. So it's just basically on, do I believe what she's saying? Does it make sense to what's going on right now? So, but yeah, it's just a normal conversation. So for me, the world is twice as loud because I both hear the living and the dead. And my population is double too, the living and the dead.
Yeah. So I'm curious when it comes to like audio recordings, like you can see them in videos and like audio and stuff.
Yes.
You can hear them as well. So last week I had you on speakerphone as we were doing an investigation, and we were talking to what we believed was a fairy, correct?
Yes.
I had asked a question, and in the audio recording, we hear you say no answer. Like the spirit didn't say anything, right? But when we went back and listened to it, we actually did have a response that the recorder picked up that, you didn't hear at the time.
Right.
So how, like, is that a common thing? Because I've never really experienced something like that before, where you haven't heard it physically, but the audio recorder picked up.
Sometimes, depending on the situation, the environment, I don't always hear everything, or if they, in certain ways, if they're talking to me through telepathy, I may not hear one because I'm focusing on that, even though it's physically recorded somewhere else. So, multitasking is not my strongest suit, but it does happen from time to time. And in this instance, your EVP was not in English. It was in, as far as I know, it would be in Gaelic.
And as if this is recording, I have sent the audio clip to someone that says they speak Gaelic. So we're seeing if we can get it translated, but I don't have high hopes because it is like a Class C EVP in my opinion. Like you could definitely hear it.
You hear something.
It's definitely there, but it was raining, so it is a little muffled. And from my experience, the one time, fairies seem to be a little quieter when they're speaking. And from everything I was researching, Gaelic is also very like a wispy, breathy voice to begin with. So we may or may not get it translated, but it would be cool if we could figure out what the spirit actually said.
Would it be a spirit? Is it dead, or is it something living on another plane?
So fairies are basically European folklore, more or less. And from that standpoint, they are not a human entity, but they are not like a demonic entity. They are something completely different that comes from European folklore. So it's not necessarily a different plane so much as they're just not human.
Okay. Let me ask you about that same night that Beaker's talking about. Is we had you on video chat. You saw a fairy we couldn't see. You also saw an elemental.
I remember she saw two fairies, the elemental, and then there was a man with like some wolf dog looking things,
Yeah.
and then a shit ton of people on the pavilion.
Yeah.
So we focused on fairy number 2.
What were you always able to see like these? I don't know what you call them. Other dimensional,
Non-human. I usually just say
non-human?
non-human.
Okay.
So they're, either something from folklore somewhere or some other belief system. I'm not, entirely educated on multi-dimensional type of
Okay.
situations. I just know that they don't emit the same energy as humans. It's different.
Okay.
And they look slightly different.
Okay.
They don't look the same as a human one. You can tell that there's a difference.
Yeah, because let's just, for the viewers and listeners, you were saying this is when we're talking fairies, you don't think of Tinkerbell.
No,
Don't think of Tinkerbell. Don't think
That's what people think of.
Yeah, this was like a grown person, like
Yeah.
5, 10,
Yeah.
6 feet tall,
Right.
but in a tree.
Yeah.
Did they weigh like nothing? I'm just trying to understand.
Bird bolts and bird bolts.
Yeah, I don't know, or because they're on like this different plane or dimension or
Right.
what.
That's how I'm
Descendants of
thinking.
avians.
What's that?
I said they're descendants of avians. Avians.
Because they're non-human. And
Uh-huh.
I've never picked up a fairy, so I don't know what they weigh. I don't know, I never really looked into
Yeah.
it. I just know that they're not human.
Okay. And so, have you always been able? You age 5 or 6, you're starting to see spirits of past people. When you start also noticing other non-humans.
So I started seeing non-humans closer into like the 10, 11 age range.
Okay.
So my sensitivities began to develop.
Interesting.
And so I've been able to kind of increase my sensibilities from that point on. So it started at just being able to see just dead humans, humanoids. And then it's kind of progressed to seeing non-humans, being able to feel bones that are buried in the ground.
Oh,
Um,
so you could be like walking in the park and be like, oh, there's someone underneath us. Or, so like okay, interesting.
So different things it just kind of progressed until there. And at this point, I have peaked, in my opinion, because I haven't gained any new
Got it.
sensitivities. These are the ones I have. And so they're the ones that I utilize. And then, of course, other people have different ones. And so they kind of collaborate. Something I can do, they can't, and vice versa.
We usually stop, collaborate, and listen.
Yes, that's very so important. So not every sensitive or medium is going to have the same abilities, and that's why we're saying this is all based off of what you understand or been told.
Yeah.
And so very, very interesting. Do you remember that first non-human that you started noticing?
Yes, I was 11, and I was in a park area. Okay. I was with a bunch of kids. I think we were at a birthday party.
Okay.
And I just didn't feel right. And I saw more like it was a shadow at first. And so as it got closer, it became more detailed. And it just seemed the energy was off. The intention was just off. So I kind of went and told my parent, which was my father. I was like, hey, I feel like there's something weird over here. I don't like it. It's kind of scaring me. Yeah. And so he kind of walked over that way and stood over that way. And so did my grandmother, because she has stuck with me since that moment that I saw her. She's sort of like guardian. Right? Yeah. And she's still with me. I mean, she's with us in the room. But she kind of went over in that way too. And that particular feeling and entity went away.
Interesting.
So
I gotta tell you, I'm not Annie's favorite person.
That's your great grandmother's name?
It just depends on the situation.
I'm not Annie's favorite person when I take Brandy to scary movies.
Oh.
No, yeah, she is not one for scary movies.
Oh, okay.
It's funny though, because when we're at like the scary movies, she's like, say I'm sitting on Brandy's left. Annie's on my left. Like she's like putting
she sandwiches you.
Yeah, she puts me in between her and Brandy. Like that's her way of like letting Brandy know she's mad at her. Otherwise, she's usually like next to Brandy or on Brandy's side. But when we're at the movies, like when we saw Bring Her Back, for example, or we went and saw Sinister or Black Phone 2 recently. Yeah, she's always on my side. Like,
Okay.
it's like, well, you're timeout is what it kind of feels like she's trying to do with her.
Yeah, she's always on my defense. So
That's
she's
good.
she loves me a lot, and we've been in some, pretty intense situations during investigations, and her, when she gets upset, it's palpable.
Okay. Okay.
She is a very strong, hard-headed Austrian/Russian, and so yeah, that's
And as if you're, you said she's in the room with us. As you're going through life, day-to-day activities, do other spirits, like, they're probably in a store as well or something like that, and they just see the living and maybe just don't care, but then they notice you. Do they notice that you notice them, or
yeah.
like, oh, hey, she sees us?
I'm not entirely sure how that works, but
Okay.
they do gravitate towards me. Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if my energy is different from
Mm.
other people's. My aura is more
Oh,
fluid,
that's
and maybe they
yeah.
can see it,
Maybe they can see yours.
and they're just like,
Only
that
there was a
person-
spirit here that you could ask.
that person can see us,
All right.
So we're gonna go and talk to her because we need help, or they notice Annie and they're just like, why is she with her? Why is she following her?
Okay.
So Annie attracts a lot of attention too, because they're
Okay.
like, okay, they're together. Is there a reason? Kind of
Yeah.
that kind of breaks the ice more or
You gotta do
less.
a double take.
They're like, wow, okay, yeah.
And the spirit's always around us, right?
Oh yeah.
So this is a question I was kind of thought about. You're married.
Yeah.
There's times you and the husband go in the bedroom. Does Annie know, oh, I need to step away?
Yes, that is, she, just like I said, was when you're alive, same as when you're dead.
Uh-huh.
So if, it's bedtime for her, time doesn't exist. Time
Okay.
doesn't exist for the dead.
All right.
Because they no longer have a physical body. That's for the living. So when we're sleeping, she just does what she does. If we're going to be intimate, she's like, okay.
I'm out of here.
So
Oh,
she-
you
Calls
expect
the other
me
dog, said, all right, it's time. Go ahead and watch.
because I'm not, naive to the fact that maybe something that might be passing through my house every once in a while. And I'm like,
And she'll
I'm not
sit in
doing
a
a free show
chair,
here, though.
like anybody else. She'll sit down, and she does, she knows other people cannot see her. Like I can see her.
uh-huh.
So if somebody goes to sit down, she'll move because
Okay.
she knows that you can't see her, but she doesn't want to be sat on.
Sure.
Right. So
That makes sense.
same personality trait, same traits as when you're alive. Just I don't want somebody to sit on, unless you want somebody to sit on your lap. But no.
Okay.
What's been really fun was watching Annie learn how technology of today works, because she died in
Oh.
the 20s, right?
20s, between 20s and 30s. Yeah.
So she had the radio you cranked. Is that what it was called?
Sure. I don't know. No, maybe. She didn't have a radio.
They had radios.
Yeah, they had radios. It depended on your crank.
I didn't say they didn't have radios. I feel like she didn't have a radio. I could be wrong.
Oh, she was of wealthy means, so she had a radio.
She had a radio.
Yeah.
No, but she fled. She left her family for someone that wasn't accepted by the family.
God,
She fell in love with a not too well-to-do person.
Before that, she had every radio there was.
Probably. So here's the thing. Alexa didn't exist.
yes, yes,
Echo
okay.
Dot didn't exist.
Yes,
Fast forwarding live TV or on
or color TV,
or color TV.
yeah,
Or like fast forwarding, like we're watching, on demand Ghost Adventures or something.
smartphones.
So sitting and watching TV with her, and then hear her hearing Peaches start going it's like, calm down. I'll be like, what's going on? She's upset that we're not fast forwarding through the commercials.
Oh,
Or we're sitting there,
all did there.
all of a sudden,
yeah,
yeah. So there was times where all of a sudden big band swing music starts playing on the
Yeah.
dot, and I'm like, what the hell? Because neither one of us are saying anything. She's like, oh yeah, Annie figured out how to use Alexa.
With us interacting, she learned
Yeah.
how to use it.
Yeah.
Alexa's obviously sensitive enough to hear her.
Interesting.
And so we'd come home and there's 20s music, 40s music, whatever music she likes.
Or the front
Because
door,
I
just
listen to
saying.
everything. And so I have an eclectic music.
Yeah.
So she listens to a lot of different stuff, but she'll try to open doors and she's
Doesn't try. She does.
How hard is that?
from my understanding, quite a bit. She has
Okay.
to pull a lot of energy from myself, from electronics, from wherever she can get a energy source from. And so it takes quite a bit of energy on her part, but you know,
Is that hard for her because she was so used to be as alive? She's opening,
right.
getting dressed, going out, having lunch, whatever, and now she can't do those things. That very frustrating. She's used to it now.
She's used to it now, but she still gets frustrated every
Yeah.
now and again. Like if she wants to go out and I don't want to go out, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to open the door.
Yeah.
So she'll have to open it herself. Otherwise, she just chills until I leave somewhere and then she follows with me.
Okay.
I have seen her open the door before.
Okay.
We're sitting there watching TV and the door opens up and I'm just like, okay then.
And I hope she doesn't mind us talking about her. I don't know.
No, she
Okay.
is quite used to that. She's been the topic of discussion
Okay.
on numerous occasions. If anything, she makes her feel good. So
Okay, good.
What I
makes
would
her
love
feel
is like,
relevant.
when I go back and do the editing on this, I would love it if she's like correcting me as I'm like saying, oh, she's never radio.
Because my next question is, I don't mean this in a bad way in any way, but why is she here?
As far as I'm aware from what she's told me, every spirit has an opportunity to move, to the next plane of existence.
Okay.
For her, if she were to move into the next plane of existence and come back as like an angelic spirit, there are certain rules to where you may or may not be able to intervene in certain situations.
Okay.
If she stays here as an earthbound spirit, and the rules for her are different, so she chooses to stay here because she can intervene in ways where an angelic spirit cannot.
Okay, because I know we have passed people on,
Right.
right? Investigations, we've helped people pass on, or
Right.
what do we call it? Did I say it right?
Crossing over.
Crossover. That's what I
Right.
meant. Yeah, crossover. Yeah. So we help people cross over. Maybe explain that. What are your options? So you pass away. Maybe you know it. Maybe you don't know it. Like, what are your options that you think are options?
My understanding is when you die,
Uh-huh.
there is a quote unquote light of some sort or a pathway to the next plane of existence.
Okay.
It's like the movie Ghost.
So you
Okay, yeah.
can cross that plane. You see it and you're kind of drawn to it, and most spirits go that way. And at that point, I think they realize that they've passed.
Okay.
Sometimes it scares them when they're like, I'm not going towards that.
Right,
I
once
don't
we've
know.
experienced
I
some
don't know what's
investigation.
over there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they're just like, I'm going to stay where I am. And at that point, after a while, most spirits realize that they're past because people aren't talking to them. They're not interacting with them. Okay, I must be gone. So I'm a spirit at this point. Some don't notice that. They just continue life, just like humans. Sometimes we notice things, very observant. Hey, I'm dead. Some don't. They just continue the same cycle. They don't notice any differences. And that's what we call residual haunting.
Residual.
And they just do the same thing every day, especially if you're one of those people that didn't have much interaction with other humans. So you wouldn't notice a difference, really.
Okay.
So, or they're just in denial. So-
In denial that they passed on. Okay. What's that other plane like? Have you met anyone that's crossed into them, came back angelic, if you will?
I've talked to angelic spirits before. They usually return to their pristine selves or their
peak?
their peak or their favorite time in their life.
21 for me.
Right.
For sure.
And so they don't have any more aching ailments. They don't, because they're not alive anymore. So they don't have any of that pain or any of that suffering. So for them, it's paradise, basically. I mean, they don't have a physical body, but they don't feel any pain. They feel great. They're in their best, they're living their best life.
Yeah.
I mean, afterlife.
Afterlife.
Right.
Is that plane what some people might know as a heaven or Valhalla, or and that's what that area is?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And you can kind of do whatever you want there? or what?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
I've never really investigated what do you do over there.
Yeah.
I just know that they're just living their best afterlife.
Yeah.
You're sure there's tacos?
Because I remember Ghosty one time told me, like, I think it'd be cool with die because I can just travel through space.
Not just space, but just time in general. You can go sideways, up and down, do all kinds of things.
Do you think that's
The
accurate?
Wonka Vader?
For me, so some people who believe in or I guess
Use
reincarnation
it.
is what you want to call it.
Okay.
That spirit, that ghost, that spirit, that soul is always going to exist in that afterlife.
Okay.
Because you don't, once you go full circle and you want to be reborn, I mean, you're not the same. So that one will always exist. And
Okay.
then you can reincarnate and you'll be totally different. You won't have the same anything.
Well,
Agree.
oh, well, go ahead.
So just recently been hearing about this. The reincarnation loop is a trap. And us living these lives of reincarnating, when we go to that light, that wipes our memory. And that's why we come back not knowing anything and have to relive a life again. And then by the time you come to death, realize some things, you think it's time to go back into that light again, and then you just forget everything all over again.
Well, you wouldn't remember anything because you're not the same person. Like you live that life is over. You don't, you're not going to remember that because you're not the same anymore. That is past.
Well, it's saying that your energy is the same. And
Your energy will never be the same because that energy is now gone.
But you're the same energy. Live inside a different body.
Not the same thing. That energy is gone. When you are reborn, you have totally different thing.
Different DNA.
Different DNA,
yeah,
different energy.
Consciousness, energy
Yeah,
source.
Well, that's different.
That's what I'm talking about.
Consciousness is different. Energy is not the same as consciousness. Being a conscious being, you're here, you understand what's going on. That's not the same as having the same energy. It's totally a different subject.
Well, we can go on that for a while, yeah. Well, let's not get off course.
Well, if you,
No, this is all part of the course.
if you remember our episode on Hans Holzer, like when he talked about the afterlife, he said that he did all of his communication through trance mediums. He didn't use electronics like we do. He used sensitives like Brandy to talk to spirits. And from his research, he understood there was like some sort of well that if you drank of it, you can reincarnate. But it was an option. Like you didn't have to reincarnate. You don't automatically reincarnate at some point. Like you get to choose.
So this theory that I was hearing about was you still get to choose about reincarnating, but you're still going to have to do it. Opposed to not going into the light, but knowing that you don't have to anymore because you've now going to ascend out of this place. And you're not going to be stuck in this reincarnation loop. That, what's it called? We're trapped thinking that we have to go into that light, that we have to continue doing this reincarnation loop until you finally remember everything and you go, wait, no, I don't. I don't have to go back into there. I don't have to keep doing this. But they say that in this theory, the things that would have been here to teach us that we didn't have to be stuck here, that would teach us these higher vibrations and to get the knowledge and to ascend and get out of here without reincarnating over and over again, were cut out and taken away from us so that we are stuck not knowing things and that we will continue to keep coming back because we don't have anything to teach us otherwise.
That's interesting. Because if you choose not to go on to the next plane of existence, then you're just here as an earthbound spirit.
Not necessarily. I'm saying instead of going to the light, you were ascending. Like not going into the light and ascending is now your consciousness or your energy is now going to be able to being on a higher vibration, more like interdimensional, like not just stuck in this loop of knowing just what's here. Mm-hmm. You're also going to know what's all these other variations of yourself and any other decision you've made through life and branched off these other timelines. You're going to be able to be a part of all that as well.
So my understanding is that
this is all theory that I'm
right. This is all theory. I have 7 past lives, earthbound, and I have what
you think you have to keep coming back.
So, and I have 3 past lives, not earthbound, somewhere else. I call them lost lives because I don't know
the moon
where they are. They're out there somewhere in the universe, and I've never been able to explore them because I don't know the interdimensional thing. So I have 7 here and 3 somewhere else. That's all I know.
So from what I understand, your subconscious never forgets. Like your your physical being. Yeah,
Right,
it's
never forget.
but no,
you
you're
have to do the work to remember.
right. But your subconscious, when you die and cross over, you remember all of that stuff. Like I've encountered crossed over spirits that have the knowledge, but they're not allowed to share it with us. So when it comes to reincarnating, if you again look back at the teachings of Hans Holzer, you have the choice once you've crossed over to drink from that well and reincarnate. You don't have to. So you're not from Hans Holzer's teaching, from his perspective. There's no loop. Like you coming back, that's a choice. Like that's you drinking from that well and making the choice to reincarnate after you've crossed over. Because obviously you can't. Obviously you can't reincarnate if you haven't crossed over.
Well, this theory says that once you've ascended and have realized this is a loop and that you don't have to keep coming back, you do have a choice. If you do want to come back, you can definitely come back at whatever you want. But it's just that you're not stuck having to go through all these different lives and learning all these lessons. It's not necessary per se.
Right. It's not according to Hans Holzer either. That's all a choice.
But I know I'm just saying
like you don't have to, you're not stuck on living life coming back.
That what his portion of that is the ascended portion of what I'm talking about.
What I'm saying, there's no loop that you're stuck in.
Well, like okay. What you just said is that it's just missing out the first portion that I'm talking about is that there is a loop. He's talking about, the portion of the spirits that I have ascended in the theory that I'm talking about. So there's maybe something he's missing. He's got one portion of that part down, and maybe because the transmedium he was using only spoke to that side.
Right. Which is why, is like when we started the show, I said everybody has a different
right. It's not saying that she's wrong at all. It's just
right.
That's
a handle on how the universe works.
And instead of him expanding on that, he just stayed on that.
And there's so many theories out there.
Right.
And
all
so
I'm saying is I'm expanding my mind to all these open theories that are new to me, and I'm questioning the shit out of them.
And I'm going off of research that I've done.
Right, but that's a statement. That's just
and from spirits that I've talked to.
Yeah.
And from their perspectives.
Right. And nobody's right and nobody's wrong, because there's no way to know.
Hey, how are we going to find out until we get there? Let's go. Yeah. Look, guys, I got some juice. Funny story, I got some juice. We're all going to take a drink at the same time. Some Kool-Aid.
Yeah, there's no real way to know who's right and who's wrong. I don't know that there is one right answer. So
right. And my mind keeps getting blown. There's so much more things that keep getting brought to the table. And it's not like it wipes away theories. It just expands those theories and connects more dots of how they could correlate with each other.
Right. And this, the universe is infinite. So that just for a human to wrap their mind around that is mind-blowing.
I mean, when you say you've had 7 lives, earthbound lives, how do you know that? And
there are ways to go through like a hypnotic state and try to figure out other lives that you may have had.
Oh, okay.
Does that always work? No.
Contact hypnosis healing technique is.
But you can.
I've heard that. Yeah.
You can do exactly that. And
I've done that. That's how I figured out. I knew one of them because I had 4 different sensitives or mediums tell me about it, and none of these mediums talk to each other, and they all gave me the same information on one of my past lives. The other one, the other life, I actually shared with Brandy. I found out through the hypnosis.
Okay.
I actually have that on audio too, of me talking in great detail of this past life.
Interesting. And then you said you had 3 that you don't know because why?
Send it back.
They're, not earthbound.
Not earthbound.
So they're somewhere in other dimensional that I can't reach. So it's not like I can go back and try to retrieve those, because we're not to that point yet where I can go and retrieve those lives. So I call them lost lives.
Interesting.
Kidnapped by squatches.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that, right? The 27 and back. If you guys remember, we did an episode about someone being gone for 27 years, coming back like it was one day, same day. Very, very fascinating. What is something that maybe stands out to you, whether it's just an investigation or just in your daily life, where you saw something that maybe really startled you or really brought up a great interest in you, of something that you saw or witnessed and said, wait, what? is that? What am I looking at?
So things that are non-human
Uh-huh.
always surprise me.
I can see that.
Because they're each different. They all have a different meaning. They all have a different agenda, as you would call it.
Okay.
Why they're here.
That's what I was wondering.
What their plan is. Because
they're not from here.
Right. And it's more of, I guess it plays on your belief system.
Mhm.
So like for Christians, it is more of what you would call a demonic spirit. Like, what is their purpose? They're here to torture the human soul and whatever.
Christianity is not the only religion that has
Right.
demons.
Right. But just because we live in a Christian state, I'm using that as an example.
Well, we should stop.
For others, like the folklore thing with fairies. Fairies is a European folklore, and they don't necessarily mean to do harm, but they're not nice either. They're always trying to strike up a deal. So like they'll try to kidnap a child, and then they'll kidnap that child and replace it with a changeling. And they have their agenda. Or they'll try to strike up a deal. If you do these things for them in return, they'll, make sure your crops do well. And so it just depends on your belief system mainly. And if you're an atheist, of course, you're not going to believe in spirits. 15 minutes. So it just depends. But they're all different. They all have a different energy. And just the look of them, the different ones that I've seen like a skinwalker, and I've seen fairies, and I've seen what I call them inhuman entities, but for Christians, they call them demonic entities.
Sure.
So, yeah, and they all either geometrics or they're, in the shape of like smoke, but it's like a structured thing, or, they may look like something in nature, or there's a lot of different things that I've seen. I'm just like, whoa.
So out of all the things that you've seen, what would probably be the one that you'd say was like the scariest looking or like craziest looking thing that you've seen?
I wouldn't say scariest, but like the craziest thing that I've seen is, I would describe it as like a giant, but it wasn't like a human giant. It was more like a big, almost like glass, like very reflective, but had like a structure to it. Not necessarily a human structure, but it had some structure to it. So there's a shape to it. And I can't even describe the shape because it's, asymmetrical, abnormal. But just like the fact that I could see myself through it and have it reflect back at me. But it's something that is here, that is moving and constantly changing shape, even though it looks like it's made out of glass.
Kind of reminds me a little bit, not reflective of those, the old Predator movies. And the Predator has like that camouflage.
That would be crazy.
It kind of sounds like that a little bit.
Yeah.
But not very reflective, but
right.
Something like that. I've heard of similar things, but people have seen something like that around Bigfoots though.
Right. And I won't even know what you would call it because I don't know what dimension it's from. I didn't dare ask what its purpose was. I just saw it and I was like, I'm just going to leave that alone because
I was going to be like, hey, what are you?
Do you think they're from like a planet or somewhere where it's a lot like them and somehow they came over here, or you have no idea?
I have no idea. I wouldn't even want to try to venture a guess. I just saw it while it was intriguing and I wanted to like go towards it because cat, shiny things. I was also like,
piece of candy.
I don't know about that, so I'm just gonna go this way and keep going.
Okay.
We're getting a little short on time.
Yes.
But I have a couple questions that I want to shoot out real quick. First one being my favorite question that I've asked her, and I love the answer to this one, and I'm sure there are people that are dying to know.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the spirit of a dinosaur?
Yes. Yes. Animals do have spirits as well. So yes, I've seen that also at the Natural History Museum. Yes.
Oh, yeah, but dinosaurs exist.
That's cool. That's cool. What's the other question?
Keep asking questions.
No.
So I had another question. I lost it.
Ghosty.
Ghosty knows it all.
I don't know shit. I'm still so my mind's blown all the time. what would be the best way to get spirits for somebody who is a sensitive and they're having situations where spirits are freaking them out? What could they do to
Like
help
haunting?
themselves? Like haunting, like like for a kid that's opened up and they don't know what to do with the stuff they're seeing. What would be a good way for them to get that to calm down for them?
For me, when I first saw Annie and I wasn't sure of who she was, everybody has a tick, something that makes them feel good. Find that tick, what makes you calm. So for me, I had a physical tick. So I would
I had a million ticks. Had a million ticks.
Yeah.
So I would just kind of sit there and rub the back of my ear, almost massage the back of my ear when I was nervous or when I was upset. I don't do that now, but that's what I would do.
Yeah.
And when I became calm, then, you become more rational. And so then I got brave enough after a few times and asked her who she was, just to confirm from what I heard from my father. That sounds like your grandma. And so I would ask her, are you my grandma? Why are you here? Are you here to help me? Are you here to hurt me? But it took a little bit to get to that point. But find that thing that calms you down, whether it's a smell, you hold something in your pocket rocks or crystals, or have a physical tick, or a shirt that you like to have, or a hoodie, or keep it with you at all times.
So these ticks will help you grow some balls.
Basically, yeah, just like anything else, when you're upset, when you're angry, how do you calm yourself down?
Nail that, Beaker.
You take the deep breaths, do you go have a beer? What do you do that helps you come back from your anger? Same thing with anxiety, or in that case, take that thing that makes you calm, because kids know this is what calms you down, where you got to go sit by your mom or your dad to calm you down, or if you have a favorite blanket or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, of course, children, it's a little bit harder to just be bold and ask things. And some children are just they don't filter. But seeing something that's not normal, out of the normal, for me, seeing something that's burnt and scarred, you're just what the hell is that?
Right.
What am I looking at? So, yeah, for me, it was different. But that's what I find. Find the one thing that calms you down, whether you're anxiety or in anger, and just carry that with you.
Yeah.
So we just talked about the giant glass thing, right? And you're you wanted to approach it, but obviously you didn't. Have you had things that you've seen that you want nothing to do with, but insist on approaching you and trying to make contact or communicate with you?
Yeah, I've had a few of those instances where, and you've been there when I've been physically manipulated. I would want to say I don't want to contact them, but they want to have contact with me.
Wow.
And for me, up until a few years ago, I really didn't have any control. I didn't feel like I had control over that until I learned how to control that type of situation. So I would get physically manipulated. I didn't want to have anything to do with them, but they kept coming at me. But I learned how to protect myself.
Okay.
So it's one of those I would try to run away, or I would try to be brave, and then I would get my ass kicked. But yeah, it's until you learn how to protect yourself spiritually, whether it's through the means of prayer for certain people, carrying certain stones or crystals, meditation, over experience, how to, what did I do wrong in this situation? Those sort of things.
I remember the other question.
Yeah.
So is this something that's just 100% on all the time, or do you have the capability of shutting this shit down and not saying it?
So for me, it's on all the time, unless I make myself a safe space. My home is my safe space. So I have put spells and bindings on my home. So once I pass through my door, everything's quiet.
Is that something you've learned to do?
Mm-hmm. And, putting the spells on my home kind of shut that off. So my home is where I spend a lot of my time, because when I come out into the world, it's loud and obnoxious and whatnot. So I'm a homebody.
So I'm going to know what I'm talking about. She'll know what I'm talking about. I don't think you two know.
Okay.
Do you still have your magic church chair?
I do have my magic church chair.
Magic church chair.
So I have a good friend named Castle, and he has this orange, just folded up like metal chair, and it came from a Mormon church. And I guess it'd been used because it's kind of worn, but it's like this bright orange, like hunter orange color. And for some reason, I sat in that chair and all of my abilities just shut off.
You have no idea why?
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
I don't know if it was because of what it was made out of or because of where it came from, but it's the one piece of furniture that I sat in and just like everything shut off.
Do you think there's, were you saying that, do you think there's power from the church then, or any church or any belief? Could not be Christianity, but could be another belief. Do you think there's power in that?
Possibly in the materials that it was made out of, possibly having blessings attached to it. I'm not completely sure, but I have it.
Kryptonite. Made with kryptonite.
Interesting. Interesting. Before we wrap up, because they're going to close up on us here soon, do you have anything that you want to share with the viewers and listeners from your experience or anything, or just from this talk?
Basically, if you have any sensibilities, it's your choice whether or not you want to develop them or whether you don't. And that's cool if you don't, and it's cool if you do. But if you ever have questions, you guys, they can always contact you guys, and you guys can contact me, and I'll try to answer them. I'm not all things knowledgeable, but I know it can be scary, but being scared of the unknown is a common thing, but it can also be like a life-changing experience in a positive way.
Great.
So,
well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
And I want to give a thanks to Beaker and Ghosty for putting on 200 episodes. They've been here for all 200 episodes.
Well, between the three of us, we've hit all 200 episodes.
That's true. But you guys take over, and I appreciate you guys doing that as I spend time with my family. So thanks to you two as well. All right.
And this is the last episode ever. This is the last episode this week. We're gonna.
Yeah, I guess we better go before we get kicked out.
We're not gonna get kicked out before I say you should hit us up on evp.pod@gmail.com. If you have any questions that you want to shoot Brandy that we can forward on to her and do our best to answer them on either email or on a future episode. Or you can hit it up on Instagram and Facebook, also at evp.pod. And then you should also check out some ghost hunting gear. Check out our affiliate link to ghostop.com. That's where we buy most of, if not all of our ghost hunting equipment. And we're actually going to go use some of it right now, because as soon as we're done wrapping up here, we're heading back to the park we did last week.
Yes.
And we're going to go talk to the fairies again.
And we'll talk about that soon.
All right. Ghosty says kill some lizard people.
Peace out, butterflies.
Bye.
Adios.